Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into the really fascinating world of Botrytis cinerea. It's this tiny fungus, but it has this huge kind of dual identity in winemaking.
That's right. It can be, an absolute disaster for growers.
A devastating threat, yeah.
Exactly. Or, under just the right circumstances, it becomes this sort of divine blessing, helping create some truly amazing wines.
So this deep dive is really about exploring that vineyard ecosystem, isn't it? How nature works in these really surprising ways through this tiny organism.
Precisely. It's a fantastic example of how terroir, the grape variety itself, and, well, human effort all intersect. Gives us a real insight into one of wine's great, maybe, paradoxes.
Absolutely. So our mission for you, our listener, is to really unpack the complexity of botrytis. We want to look at its biology, understand its two faces, the good and the bad.
Right. And the very specific conditions needed for the good side, the noble rod, to actually happen.
Yeah, which grapes love it, which ones maybe don't, and the really careful work in the vineyard and winery.
And finally, the wines themselves. Those unique styles it helps create all around the globe.
Okay, so let's start with that core paradox. How can one single fungus that's pretty much everywhere have such, wildly different results? Ruin or renown?
It's a great question. So, biologically speaking, Botrytis cinerea is an ascomycete. That's just a big group of fungi.
Okay.
But the key thing is, it's what we call a necrotrophic parasite,
Necrotrophic.
meaning it feeds on dead or dying plant tissue. It thrives by breaking it down.
Right.
Its life cycle is, well, pretty effective. It survives winter as these tough little structures, sclerotia, hidden in plant debris. Think of them as fungal bunkers.
Uh-huh.
Then comes spring. With warmth and moisture, they germinate and release just vast numbers of microscopic spores called conidia. These are asexual spores, easily carried by wind, rain.
Yeah.
They get everywhere.
Like an invisible cloud waiting for a chance.
Pretty much. It's quite the survival strategy.
So how does it actually, get into the grape to cause trouble or
Right.
or magic?
Well, for infection, those spores need moisture on the grape skin. Think morning dew that hangs around, or maybe after some rain.
Okay.
And often, they need a little help getting in. An entry point. This could be tiny wounds from insects, maybe hail damage.
Or cracked skins.
Exactly. Skins can crack if the grapes swell up too fast after rain, especially thin skin types, or even just mechanical damage from working in the vineyard.
So any little opening is an invitation.
Basically, yes. Once they find that moisture and an entry point, the spores germinate, infection begins. And the ideal conditions for it to really take off are high humidity. We're talking over 90% relative humidity and mild temperatures, say between 15 and 25 degrees Celsius.
Okay, so let's tackle the dark side first. Botrytis as gray rot. This sounds like every grape grower's nightmare.
Oh, it absolutely is. Gray rot loves persistent humidity, damp conditions that just don't dry out.
And poor air circulation, like tightly packed grapes.
Exactly. Dense vine canopies that don't let the air move through are a big problem. Combine that with those mild temperatures, and you've got the perfect recipe for gray rot.
What does it actually do to the grapes? Let's start with green, unripe grapes.
On green grapes, it usually starts as small brownish spots. These can spread, causing the berries to shrivel up, mummify. Sometimes it can even spread through the main stem of the bunch, the angasso, taking out the whole cluster.
Nasty. And on mature grapes, I imagine it's even worse then.
It is. Mature grapes lose their firmness, they get soft, watery, and then you see that characteristic fuzzy gray mold layer.
The actual gray mold.
Yeah, that's the mycelium, the body of the fungus, covered in millions and millions of new spores, ready to spread. Infected berries often split open, leaking juice.
Which just invites more problems, I bet.
Absolutely. Bacteria, other wild yeasts,
Yeah.
they jump right in. And in compact bunches, it spreads like wildfire through direct contact from berry to berry.
So it's not just ugly, it fundamentally ruins the grape. What does that mean for the wine quality and I guess the quantity too?
Both take a massive hit. Quality-wise, gray rot just degrades the raw material, brings in these awful off flavors, moldy, earthy, sometimes vinegary, even like cooked cabbage.
Yeah.
And it messes with the chemistry of the juice, the must. Acidity drops, pH goes up, making it unstable microbiologically.
And for red wines, I heard it's particularly bad.
It is. Botrytis produces an enzyme called lactase. This enzyme oxidizes the anthocyanins, the color compounds in red grapes. So you end up with wines that look brown or orangey, not vibrant red.
And tannins.
Also negatively affected. They can become harder, more bitter, astringent. It really compromises the structure of the red wine.
Wow. So quantity-wise, it can wipe out a crop.
In severe cases, yes.
Yeah.
Total crop loss. The infected berries are unusable. And even if it's patchy, you face much higher harvest costs because you have to manually sort out all the bad berries. It's just a disaster.
A complete dismantling of the grape's potential, as you said.
That's a good way to put it.
Okay, that paints a pretty grim picture. So how on earth does this same fungus perform this magical U-turn to become noble rot, the source of these incredible, sought-after sweet wines?
It really is like night and day, isn't it? It all comes down to climate, very specific, very delicate conditions in the autumn.
Oh,
You need those humid, foggy mornings, or at least heavy dew. That provides the moisture for the spores to germinate and start infecting the grape skin.
right. Same starting point as gray rot.
Exactly. But, and this is the absolute crucial difference, those damp mornings must be followed by sunny, breezy afternoons.
Ah, the drying effect.
Precisely. The sun and wind dry the surface of the grape. This stops the fungus from developing into the destructive gray rot phase. Instead, it allows the fungus to just gently penetrate the skin in a controlled way.
So it's this cycle, damp, then dry, damp, then dry.
That alternating humidity and dryness is fundamental. Without it, you don't get noble rot. You just get gray rot.
So when it is noble rot, what's actually happening inside the grape? It's shriveling, but it's different from just drying out.
Very different. The fungus creates these incredibly tiny holes, microperforations, in the grape skin.
Okay.
Through these tiny pores, water inside the berry slowly, gradually evaporates. The grape can lose, 50% or even more of its water content.
So they look like raisins, basically.
They do look shriveled, yes. But crucially, the internal structure of the berry remains intact. And as the water leaves, everything else gets concentrated.
Everything. Sugars, obviously, but what else?
Sugars, yes. Glucose and fructose levels shoot way up. But just as importantly, the acids, tartaric acid, malic acid, they also concentrate.
Ah, so that's the key to balance, preventing it from being just sickly sweet.
Exactly. That concentrated acidity provides the freshness, the vibrancy, keeps it from being cloying, and give these wines their incredible longevity. Minerals get concentrated too, and importantly, the aromatic compounds.
And does the fungus itself add any flavors?
It does. The fungus produces enzymes that interact with compounds already in the grape, creating a whole new, unique range of aromas. Think honey, beeswax, saffron, candied orange peel, marmalade.
Gingerbread, dried fruits.
All of those. And often a subtle, distinctive note of dried mushroom. There's actually a key compound called Botrytis lactone, which is pretty much unique to these wines and responsible for some of those characteristic notes.
It's amazing. So it's not just concentrating what's there, it's actively creating new complexity.
That's right. It's a true transformation.
It really highlights how specific the location must be. You can't just get noble rot anywhere, can you?
Absolutely not. The right terroir is essential. You need those long, stable autumns with that specific weather pattern. Foggy mornings, sunny afternoons.
And the land itself.
Yeah.
Drainage must be important if humidity is a factor.
Crucial. You need excellent soil drainage. Stony soils, sandy, gravelly types are ideal. This prevents waterlogging around the roots, which would just encourage the bad kind of rot.
And sunshine. Exposure.
Yep, good sun exposure helps with that afternoon drying. Slopes facing south or southeast in the northern hemisphere are often prized because they catch the afternoon sun and wind effectively.
I've also heard that being near rivers or lakes is often key for these regions. Seems a bit counterintuitive again, needing water nearby when you also need dryness.
It does, but it makes sense. Those rivers and lakes are the source of the essential morning fog or humidity.
Ah, okay.
Think about the classic regions. Sauternes in Bordeaux, you've got the Garonne River and its cooler tributary, the Ciron, meeting right there, creating morning mist.
Right, Tokaj in Hungary.
The Bodrog and Tisa rivers, Germany's Moselle region, the Moselle River itself, Austria's Burgenland, the shallow lake Neusiedlersee.
So the water provides the morning moisture.
Exactly. And these large bodies of water also have a moderating effect on temperature, especially at night. They help extend the growing season, letting the grapes get fully ripe before the botrytis needs to kick in. It's this perfect, delicate balance.
A very specific microclimate. Okay, so we have the climate, the location. What about the grapes themselves? Are some varieties just better suited to this whole process?
Definitely. The ideal grape for noble rot needs a few key things. It needs a thin skin, but one that's still resilient.
Thin enough for the fungus to penetrate, but tough enough not to just split open immediately.
Precisely. It allows that water evaporation without the berry just falling apart. Bunch structure matters. 2 moderately compact bunches help create that humid microclimate near the grapes. But they can't be so tight that air can't circulate at all.
Needs that balance again.
Always.
Yeah.
The grape also needs naturally good acidity and sugar levels when the botrytis arrives, and just the right level of susceptibility to the fungus, not too resistant, not too prone to gray rot. And of course, it needs the right aromatic precursors, the building blocks for those complex flavors that develop.
Interesting. Now, you mentioned earlier that botrytis is really bad news for red wines because of color and tannin issues. So is noble rot ever a thing for reds?
It's extremely rare,
Hmm.
really challenging. As we said, that lactase enzyme just wreaks havoc on the red color pigments, turning them brown or orange.
Not appealing.
Not at all. And it messes with the tannins, making them harsh or bitter, which ruins the structure. There is one tiny, almost legendary exception, Cabernet Franc. In very specific parts of the Loire Valley, like maybe Vouvray or Montlouis-sur-Loire, on rare occasions, under perfect conditions, it can produce some unique, sweet red wines. You get notes of cooked red fruits, spice, earthy tones. But honestly, it's incredibly rare. Noble rot is overwhelmingly a white wine phenomenon.
Okay, so who are the star white grapes then?
Well, the undisputed queen has to be Semillon, especially in the Sauvignon and Barsac in Bordeaux. It's got that thin skin, develops incredible complexity, honey, beeswax, dried apricot, fig, saffron, but holds on to brilliant acidity.
And Riesling, I know that's huge in Germany and Austria.
Hugely important, yes. Riesling is incredibly versatile. It makes sublime sweet wines across Germany, Moselle, Rheingau, Nahe, Pfalz, and in Austria, especially around Lake Neusiedlersee in Burgenland. We're talking about Oslies, Beerdeslies, BA, and Trockenbeerneslies, DBA styles.
What's Riesling known for in these styles?
Its hallmark is searing acidity, which balances the sweetness beautifully. You get candied citrus, honey, apricot, and often a really pronounced mineral streak. They age forever.
And Tokaj in Hungary, we mentioned the region. What are the grapes there?
The heart of Tokaji is ferment and Harslavelia. Ferment brings the structure and that piercing acidity, absolutely crucial for balance. Harslavelia adds lovely floral and honeyed notes to the blend.
What about the Loire Valley's White Star?
That would be Chenin Blanc. It's the grape behind the great sweet wines of areas like Vouvray, the Moyou style, and Coteau du Léon, again, known for vibrant acidity and flavors like baked apple, quince honey, and a touch of ginger.
Any other major players?
Yeah.
Gewürztraminer.
Yes, in Alsace, Gewürztraminer can produce really aromatic, opulent sweet wines called Sélection des Grands Nobles, or SGN. Very distinct lychee, rose petal, spice, and honey notes.
Muscat.
Various muscat varieties, or muscatel, are used around the world. They make very aromatic sweet wines, often retaining that fresh grape character alongside orange blossom and honey, sometimes with Botrytis complexity. Think of Passitos di Pantelleria from Italy, for example.
Are there others worth mentioning?
Sure. Pinot Gris is important, especially in Alsace for SGN wines, too. Gruner Veltliner in Austria can produce some great BAs and TBAs. And Verduzzo in Italy. It's quite a diverse group, but they all share those key characteristics we talked about.
It really sounds like the vineyard work is absolutely critical. It's not just about having the right place and the right grape, is it? You need intense human intervention.
Oh, absolutely. The vineyard management is meticulous. Everything is geared towards encouraging the noble rot while discouraging the gray rot.
How do they do that? Pruning.
Pruning and the training system are key. You need systems that open up the canopy, allow air to circulate freely around the bunches, and help them dry quickly after dew or rain. Things like cordon training, guyot, sometimes high trellising systems.
What about leaves? Do they manage the leaves?
Yes, strategic leaf removal, disfola, as they might say in some places, is common. Taking away leaves around the bunches increases sun exposure and airflow.
And yield. Do they limit how many grapes each vine produces?
Absolutely essential. Lower yields mean the vine puts all its energy into fewer grapes, concentrating the sugars, the acids, the flavor precursors. This often involves green harvesting going through mid-season and cutting off excess bunches.
Wow. So every step is about creating that perfect microenvironment and concentrating the potential.
That's the goal. You're almost trying to invite the noble rot, but under very controlled conditions.
And the harvest itself. You mentioned it's incredibly labor-intensive. Why is that?
Because the grapes, even within the same bunch, don't develop noble rot uniformly. It doesn't happen all at once.
Ah, so you can't just pick the whole vineyard on one day.
No way. The harvest is a ritual of patience. Pickers have to go through the vineyard multiple times. These are the famous tries and sauternes or vendanges, successive pickings.
Over how long?
It can take weeks, sometimes even months, depending on the vintage. They pass through again and again, selecting only the individual berries or sometimes small parts of bunches that have reached that perfect stage of noble rot.
Just picking the shriveled golden brown ones.
Exactly. Visibly shriveled, usually a sort of amber or coppery color. It requires incredible skill and attention to detail to pick only the perfectly botrytized berries and leave the rest. That ensures maximum concentration and quality in the final pick.
It sounds unbelievably stressful for the winemaker, walking this tightrope, waiting for the rot, hoping it's the right kind of rot, deciding when to pick.
It is incredibly nerve-wracking. Humidity management is the constant battle. Too much dampness, especially if it stays damp, and you lose everything to gray rot.
So good drainage and canopy management are defensive measures.
Absolutely. And then there's constant monitoring, watching the grapes ripen, checking sugar levels, acid levels, and watching the botrytis develop, using your eyes, your experience, even tasting berries in the vineyard to distinguish the good rot from the bad.
And timing the pick must be the hardest call.
One of the toughest. Pick too early, you don't get enough concentration. Wait too long, you risk losing it all to gray rot, or maybe rain washes away the sugars. You have to be ready to mobilize the picking teams instantly when the conditions and the grapes are just right.
Okay, so they've navigated the vineyard risks, done the painstaking harvest. What happens when these precious, sticky grapes get to the winery?
Well, the meticulous work continues. The first step, often, is another round of selection.
Even after picking berry by berry.
Often, yes. On sorting tables, you absolutely have to ensure only perfectly noble rotted berries go into the press. Any hint of gray rot could introduce those off flavors and compromise the entire batch. Sometimes this involves sorting berry by painstaking berry.
Wow. And pressing them. They must be hard to press, being all shriveled and sticky.
They are. You can't just crush them like normal grapes. You need very gentle, very slow pressing. Pneumatic presses are often used, applying gradual pressure over many hours.
To coax the juice out without breaking seeds or getting harsh tannins?
Exactly. You want just that pure, concentrated nectar, and the yield is incredibly low. You get maybe a tiny fraction of the juice you'd get from healthy grapes. That low yield is a huge factor in why these wines are often expensive.
Makes sense. Then fermentation. I imagine that's tricky with juice that's basically syrup.
Extremely tricky. That's super high sugar concentration. We're talking 300 grams per liter, or even much more. Sometimes creates huge osmotic stress for the yeast cells.
They struggle to survive in that sugary environment.
They really do.
Yeah.
So fermentation is typically very slow. It might stop and start. It can take months, even years in some extreme cases. It often stops naturally before all the sugar is consumed, leaving that high residual sugar and relatively low alcohol content.
Do they use special yeasts? Control the temperature?
Yes to both. Low fermentation temperatures, maybe 15–20 degrees C, help preserve the delicate aromas and slow things down even more. And often specific yeast strains that are selected for their tolerance to high sugar and alcohol are used to help the fermentation along, or at least get it started reliably.
Is this where mutage comes in, adding spirit to stop fermentation, like import?
Good question, but generally no. Not for these classic noble rot wines like Sauternes or Tokaji Azu or German TBAs. Those are naturally sweet. The fermentation stops on its own. Mutage, adding grape spirit, is used for fortified wines like Port or Vendu Naturels from France, but that's a different process.
Got it. So fermentation finishes naturally. What about aging? How important is that?
Hugely important for developing complexity and ensuring longevity. Oak is very common for the top wines.
New oak, used oak.
Both are used. Prestigious wines like Sauternes or Tokaji Azu often see time in French oak barrels, barrique. Some new oak can add spice and structure, while older barrels allow that slow oxygen exchange, microoxygenation, which helps the wine evolve and stabilize without adding overt oaky flavors.
So the oak adds structure, maybe some spice notes like vanilla or toast?
Exactly. And it helps the wine integrate and prepare for the long haul, because these wines have incredible aging potential in the bottle.
Decades, you said.
Decades, easily. Often over a century for the best examples from great vintages. That high sugar and high acidity act as amazing natural preservatives.
And what happens in the bottle over all that time?
Magic happens. Those primary fruit and floral notes slowly transform into incredibly complex tertiary aromas. Think honey deepening, dried fruits becoming more intense, marmalade, maybe some earthy notes, tobacco, sweet spice, sometimes roasted coffee.
Wow. Any other classic aged notes?
In aged Rieslings, you can sometimes get a distinctive kerosene or petrol note, which sounds odd, but can be really complex and appealing in context. The color also deepens dramatically, from golden to rich amber, even mahogany.
Is oxidation ever part of the plan during aging?
In some specific styles, yes. Think older Tokaji Azu or maybe Italian Vinsanto. A degree of controlled oxidation during barrel aging can be desirable, contributing nutty notes, caramel, coffee, candied orange peel character. It adds another layer of complexity. These aren't just aged wines. They truly evolve and transform.
Okay, we've covered the how. Now let's talk about the where and the what. Let's take a quick tour of the most famous styles of Botrytis wines around the world. France first. Sauternes is the icon.
Absolutely. Sauternes and its neighbor Barsac in Bordeaux. Iconic. Mainly Semillon, usually blended with some Sauvignon Blanc for acidity and freshness, and maybe a touch of Muscadel for aromatics. Classic notes: honey, dried apricot, candied orange peel, saffron, sweet spices, always that vibrant acidity, immense aging potential.
What about Vin de Paille from Jura or the Rhone? Are those Botrytised?
Oh, good point. Vin de Paille or straw wines are a bit different. They can have some botrytis influence, but the main concentration comes from drying the grapes after harvest, traditionally on straw mats. It's the appassimento method, so the concentration mechanism is primarily dehydration, not noble rot action on the vine. They tend to be less unctuous or viscous than a Sauternes.
Got it. Different process. Now, Hungary, Tokaji, wine of kings, king of wines, right?
That's the famous description attributed to Louis XIV of France, and Tokaji suit lives up to it. Made from those individually picked, botrytized dessous berries, usually ferment and harslevelu.
And they're macerated in a base wine.
Yes, traditionally macerated in a base wine or fermenting must from the same vintage. The level of sweetness used to be indicated by the number of Prutonios hods of dessous berries added to a barrel of base wine, range from 3 to 6 Prutonios, sometimes more.
Is that system still used?
It's being simplified now, often focusing on minimum residual sugar levels, but you'll still see Prutonios on older bottles. But with 6 Prutonios would be very sweet, over 150 grams per liter of sugar. The complexity is amazing: honey, dried apricot, fig, black tea, spice, that unique botrytis mushroom mineral note. And they age practically forever.
Are there other Tokaji styles besides dessous?
Yes. There's Zamarodny, which means as it came. For this, whole bunches containing a mix of healthy and botrytized grapes are harvested and vinified together. It can be dry Zaras, often with nutty oxidative notes, a bit like Fino or sherry, or it can be sweet A's, but generally less concentrated than Azu.
And the ultimate, Essentia.
Ah, Essentia.
Yeah.
The rarest of the rare. It's basically the free-run juice that drips naturally from the mass of Azu berries, just under their own weight before pressing.
So pure nectar.
Pure nectar's right. It's so incredibly sweet, 450, even up to 800 grams per liter of sugar, sometimes more, that it barely ferments. Alcohol is often only 1.5%. Technically, it's barely wine.
What's it like?
Extremely viscous, dense like syrup, but with unbelievable acidity cutting through. Intense candied fruits, honey, exotic spices, deep minerality. Its aging potential is measured in centuries. It used to be given medicinally, almost.
Incredible. Okay, let's hop over to Germany and Austria, Riesling territory, Beerenauslese, Trockenbeerenauslese, BA, and TBA.
Right. These are part of the German predicate system, also used in Austria. Beerenauslese, BA, means berry selection. These are made from individually selected overripe berries, significantly affected by noble rot.
So very sweet, concentrated.
Yes, intensely sweet, luscious texture. Honey, dried apricot, orange peel notes, often with that Riesling minerality shining through.
And TBA, Trockenbeerenauslese.
That's dry berry selection, the pinnacle. These grapes are shriveled practically to raisins by noble rot. The concentration is extreme. The resulting wines have incredibly high residual sugar, balanced by piercing acidity. They are among the longest-lived wines in the world.
What do TBAs taste like?
Think super concentrated honey, quince jam, dried figs, toasted nuts, spices, maybe hints of wax or lanolin as they age. Utterly profound wines.
Now, a quick clarification. What about Eiswein or ice wine? That's also German-Austrian and very sweet. Is that botrytis?
Crucial distinction. No, Eiswein is not botrytized, or at least botrytis is generally undesirable for classic Eiswein.
So how does it get sweet?
Concentration comes from freezing. The grapes are left on the vine deep into winter until they freeze solid, usually below -7 Celsius. Then they're harvested and pressed while still frozen.
So the water stays behind as ice crystals?
Exactly. The press squeezes out a tiny amount of super concentrated sugary juice, leaving the water ice behind. The key difference in taste is that Eiswein typically has very pure, vibrant, fresh fruit, aromas peach, apricot, citrus, green apple, rather than the honeyed dried fruit, spicy notes of botrytis. Acidity is also usually laser sharp.
Good clarification. Are there other places making significant noble rot wines? New World, maybe?
Yes, definitely. You find excellent examples of late harvest wines influenced by botrytis in places like California, Washington State in the U.S. Australia has history, particularly with Semillon in places like the Hunter Valley or Riesling in the Clare Valley. New Zealand, especially Marlborough, produces some lovely noble rot wines too.
Similar styles.
Often similar flavor profiles, honey, dried apricot, orange peel, spice, but maybe reflecting their own terroir and grape varieties. And one more to mention, perhaps slightly different, Pedro Ximénez, or PX, from Jerez in Spain.
That's sherry country. Is PX botrytized?
Primarily, PX is made from grapes dried in the sun after harvest the solio process. That's the main concentration method. However, in certain humid conditions before harvest, botrytis can sometimes play a secondary role, adding another layer of complexity to those intense fig, date, raisin, coffee, and chocolate notes. But it's mainly a sun-dried grape wine.
Okay, that's a great world tour. Now let's talk about actually experiencing these wines. What should someone expect when they pour a glass of, say, Sauternes or a TBA, sensory-wise?
Well, the first thing is usually the color. Young wines will be a beautiful, bright golden yellow. With age, that deepens incredibly through amber, topaz, eventually to a dark mahogany or brown.
And the aromas, you mentioned honey, dried fruits.
Yes, primary aromas often leap out. Dried apricot, maybe peach, fig, raisin, intense honey, candied citrus peel, orange, lemon, marmalade.
Then secondary notes. From the winemaking or the botrytis itself?
Right. You might get fine spices. Saffron is classic, and sauternes, maybe ginger, cinnamon, clove, toasted nuts, hazelnut, almond, beeswax, sometimes black tea leaves.
And with age, those tertiary notes develop.
That's when it gets really complex. Caramel, toffee, pipe tobacco, roasted coffee beans, toastier smoky notes from oak, or just age, maybe aged leather. That subtle, earthy, mushroomy note from the botrytis can become more integrated. And in Rieslings, as we said, potentially that kerosene note.
It sounds incredibly rich on the nose. What about the palate? Texture.
Oh, the texture is unmistakable. These wines are almost always unctuous, viscous, luscious. They coat your palate. They feel opulent, full-bodied.
But not heavy or cloying.
That's the magic. Despite the richness and intense sweetness, that vibrant acidity cuts through everything. It provides balance, freshness, lifts the palate, and leads to a surprisingly clean finish. That tension between sweetness and acidity is the absolute hallmark.
And that structure is why they age so well.
Exactly. The sugar and the acid are natural preservatives. They allow these wines to evolve and gain complexity for decades, sometimes well over 100 years. They are built to last.
So how do you pair food with something so intense and complex? It sounds challenging.
It can be, but the pairings are often sublime. The absolute classics are things like foie gras.
The richness and saltiness of the foie gras against the sweet, acidic wine.
A perfect contrast and complement. Intense blue cheeses are another classic, Roquefort, Stilton, Gorgonzola. The wine's sweetness cuts through the cheese's saltiness and pungent flavors beautifully.
What about dessert?
Fruit and nut-based desserts work well. Tarts, creme brulee, things with apricots, peaches, nuts. The key rule is, make sure the dessert is not sweeter than the wine, otherwise the wine will taste tart or thin.
Interesting rule. Any more adventurous pairings?
Definitely. They can be surprisingly versatile. Try them with moderately spicy Asian food, Thai green curry, maybe some Chinese dishes. The sweetness and acidity can cool the spice and complement the complex flavors.
Really? Spicy food?
It works. Also, dishes that feature some of the wine's own flavor notes. Think duck with orange sauce, or dishes with saffron, honey, or dried fruits. Even savory dishes like roasted poultry or pork can work if there's a slightly sweet element in the preparation. Don't just relegate them to the end of the meal.
Good point. Okay, as we wrap up our dip dive, let's look ahead. What's the future hold for these unique wines? It sounds like climate change must be a huge concern.
It's the biggest challenge, without a doubt. The very specific weather patterns needed for noble rot, those foggy mornings followed by sunny afternoons, are becoming less reliable.
How so? Warmer temperatures, erratic weather.
All of the above. Rising temperatures can mean less fog. More extreme weather events like heavy rain at the wrong time can lead to devastating gray rot instead. And warmer overall temperatures can mean the grapes ripen too quickly, losing that crucial acidity before the botrytis even has a chance to develop properly. The whole delicate balance is threatened.
That sounds serious. How are producers adapting? What's being done?
There's a huge focus on sustainability in the vineyard, building healthier, more resilient ecosystems through organic or biodynamic practices, better water management, promoting biodiversity. These things help the vineyard withstand stress.
And innovation. New techniques.
Yes, Innovation is crucial. In the vineyard, that might mean exploring different grape clones that are perhaps slightly less susceptible to gray rot, or optimizing canopy management even further with new trellising systems, using predictive modeling to better forecast botrytis risk.
What about in the winery?
Continued refinement there, too. Research into specialized yeast strains that perform better under high sugar stress, precision temperature control during fermentation, advanced techniques for clarification and stabilization to ensure the wine's quality and longevity, perhaps with less reliance on sulfur dioxide.
And the market for these wines, are people still drinking Sauternes and Talcadji?
They definitely occupy a high-quality, high-value niche. Their rarity, complexity, and aging potential command respect, and often high prices. The challenge, I think, is broadening their appeal.
Moving beyond just being seen as dessert wines.
Exactly. Communicating their versatility, those exciting, savory pairings we talked about. Educating newer consumers about what makes them so special, their history, the incredible effort involved. It's about ensuring this amazing millennial tradition continues.
So, preserving the tradition while adapting to the future.
That's the key. Balancing that ancestral wisdom, the generations of experience, with sustainable practices and smart innovation to face the challenges ahead. So, to sort of wrap it all up, Botrytis Cinerea. It really is this fungus of extremes, isn't it? A potential disaster. But under the right, very specific conditions, it's the key to unlocking these liquid jewels. Wines of incredible richness, layers upon layers of complexity, and that extraordinary ability to age.
That balance of intense sweetness and vibrant acidity is just remarkable.
It truly is. And it defines these iconic wines, whether it's a Sauternes, a Tokaji Azu, a Bernasleys, or a TBA. They offer a sensory experience and a journey through time that's unlike almost anything else in the world of wine.
A fantastic summary. So, for you listening, the next time you have the chance to try a Botrytized wine, maybe pause and think about it. It's not just a sweet drink, it's this incredible product of nature's delicate balance, climate's whims, and centuries of human dedication and risk-taking, all working in this amazing, precarious harmony. What part of this fascinating journey will you explore next?